Hello everyone. So I today want to talk about impatience. I believe that impatience is something that ENJs, so ENFJs and ENTJs, struggle with a lot. And it is directly because of the way that NI and SE interact in the middle of our functional stack. And I believe that ESJs might have a similar thing, but today I want to talk about ENJ impatience and what it's like to have tertiary SE and how that sort of interacts with NI. So, ENJs are sort of the doers and the leaders of visionary ideas. And we aren't doers in the sense of how ESTPs and ESFPs, they use their SE to sort of trial and error. They just sort of throw themselves out there and they commit to doing something and they figure it out along the way. ENJs, we sort of don't have as much energy for the trial and error. We want to know exactly what we want to do, and then we're going to just catapult out there and make a splash. That's sort of the goal. The goal is to have some sort of a plan, some sort of a vision for what you're doing, and then listen to the timing. If you can, pay attention to the divine timing of life and thrust yourself out there at just the right moment. So what I've realized for me is that since I use FE as my top function, I'm always thinking about how is this action going to impact my happiness or the happiness of people around me? How is this going to make life better? And if I can't see a direct connect there, it's a little difficult. Whereas extroverted thinking, if you are an ENTJ, you're going to be noticing, like, how is this going to get me where I want to go? How is this action going to get the results that I'm after? Where for an ENFJ, it's way more about the emotional results. How is this going to benefit my life or another person's life? And so there is this, it's already, you're sort of impatient because your first function is judging. You're trying to judge before you've even perceived the whole story. Anyone who has judging as the very first function in their stack is going to be like this to an extent. So IPs and EJs, that would be ENFJ, ENTJ, ESFJ, ESTJ, INFP, INTP, ISTP, ISFP. If you have a judging function as your first, you're going to be judging based on your ideology before you even have taken a look at what's going on outside of you. But for ENFJs and ENTJs, we are trying to take a step toward whatever our vision is, and we're always a step ahead. We just always are. Our perception is always a little bit ahead of what is actually real in the sensory reality. Because we have our ideology, we have an ENFJ wanting to benefit the world, benefit themselves, and even if an ENFJ is doing business or something that might be more stereotypically thinky, they're still going to be thinking about it in terms of benefit and emotional impact. And an ENTJ, even if they're doing something that is helping people, they're still going to be looking at the results, and they're still going to be looking at measurable output of what happens. So both types are going to be, they have this ideology, and they're going to try and go toward it, and then they're going to do that first, and then right after that is introverted intuition, where you see the vision of yourself doing that so strongly. But after that is the sensory world. So whenever your intuition comes before the sensory world, that makes you an idea person and an imaginative person. And the fact that NJs, especially ENJs, are super, super visionary because they're able to have a vision and then take the necessary action to support that vision. But that's good. It's good to be a visionary. That is a great skill to have. But the difficulty is whenever you can never line up with that vision because you're always one step ahead. Always, always, always. ENTJs and ENFJs struggle from this same problem, where our top function is trying to move. We are trying to take steps to get where we want to go, whether that be measured by FE or TE, it doesn't matter. It is an external way of checking to see, is this what I want? Am I doing the things that I need to do where I want to be where I want to be? Or, yeah. So we're always moving, but then NI sees a step ahead. And so we feel like we have to just keep moving because we're never going to reach introverted intuition. You're never going to reach into where your introverted intuition says you should be. Never. Never, ever, ever. But that is what is so amazing about introverted intuition, is that it is always pulling you forward. It's a skill. It helps NJs be a visionary sort of person. But you cannot beat up on yourself for not being where you want to be, because the very nature of how this works is meant to make you be one step ahead mentally. Your perception is always one step ahead, and that can sort of force you to jump the gun or do things before it's ready or whatever. But here's another thing is, so for me what happens a lot is I will have some sort of idea or vision of something that I should be doing, and I know very deeply that I should be doing it. Or I'll know very deeply, oh, this is the way things are, this is where society's going. Or I have a gut feeling that, this could turn into a fruitful relationship, or this could turn into a fruitful endeavor, or that society might trend in this direction. Like, NJs can also be pretty trendy when it comes to like fashion or like jumping on the social media before other people thought it was gonna stick around. But anyway, like have an idea with NI of what might be next. But then here's what happens. Here's what happens to ENJs that is different than what happens to INJs. We rely on our extroverted sensing a lot. And so we'll have an idea, and then since we're extroverts, we're going to go out in the world, and we're going to use our extroverted sensing. Even though it's our tertiary function, we're still going to use it because we're extroverts and we love interacting with the world. And then we're going to look at extroverted sensing and we're like, wait a minute, that's not what's happening. My perception is wrong. Like, for example, with the election in the United States, something that I really believe is that this is all the division is meant to happen for a reason, because everyone is being asked to process their emotion, I feel like things are being uncovered everywhere in society, and it's going to help us have empathy at the end of the day. It's going to help us have empathy for other points of view, and a lot of really dirty, shady things that have been happening under the radar in society for several years, for forever, are now being talked about in a way that they weren't before. And so my NI will know that this is a process. We're all just you know, being forced to look within and being forced to understand others that are different and maybe get rid of some of our beliefs that aren't so great. And we're all being asked this, but then I'll look in the extroverted sensing and I'll be like, wait a minute, no. People are shooting each other. It's terrible. I hate everything. Oh my gosh, that's not what's happening. And so it looks almost like the intuition in the sensory is not quite accurate. Or, this is like a really dumb example, but if you want to know what goes through an ENFJ's head, my NI will see some sort of relationship, some person, and get a sense that this could be a relationship. Like, oh, I feel like they like me a lot. And then they start playing games and start ignoring me, going back and forth with me, or whatever. And the NI and the SE don't match up in that way either. Because what I tend to do is I meet someone and I kind of automatically know if it could be someone that I could be interested in or not. And so I decide super quick. And especially whenever I like P's, which I always like IP types. If I want to get really specific, like ISTP, INTP, INFP, like that's just sort of what happens. I don't plan that, it just is what happens. But so my decisiveness can be a little scary and make them like play games or go back and forth or be like, I don't know, look a little volatile. But anyway, that's just an example of like my intuition will say one thing and then I'll look in the extroverted sensing and I'll be like, wait a minute, no, I'm wrong. We don't have a connection. I don't even know this person or something. And that might resonate with an ENTJ. I'm not sure. Let me know. You might not think about, an ENTJ might not think about those things as much. I mean, we all have emotions, but for me, it's like my NI is saying, this is where I'm supposed to go. This is who I'm supposed to date. This is where I'm supposed to move. This is my job. That is supposed to be this, everything. This is higher Megan. This is like my higher self. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And then I'll look in the extroverted sensing and I'm like, but I'm not there yet. What? Like, does that mean that my vision was wrong? And we can get super impatient and not trust introverted intuition. And ENJs will go from their first to third, they're looping. I, as an ENFJ, will go FESE, FESE. I'll spin my wheels. I'll like go on a bunch of dates I don't care about. I will hang out with like 5 people a week and get coffee and like pick their brain about their career or their business idea and like not start something of my own. I'll just spin my wheels and talk to people, be friendly, like go to events, go to networking. And ENTJs will go do like TESE back and forth if they don't trust their intuition. And I think that what we need to realize is ENJs, we already know that we're visionaries, but by definition, that means that we are one step ahead. And so I think that ENJs, we care about implementing our ideas way more than an INJ would. An INFJ and an INTJ might sit on an idea for years before they do anything about it because their extroverted sensing is lower down. I think that ENFJs and ENTJs, they don't want to just talk the talk, like we want to walk the walk too. We want to create real change in the extroverted sensing. And because we have that desire, we can be quite hard on ourselves for not actually being there because our extroverted sensing is strong enough that we'll look at where we are and like, well, you're not where you are now. Like I personally, like I'll learn about the law of attraction and I'll learn about money mindset and I'll learn about the thoughts you're supposed to think in order to make the amount of money you want or whatever. And I think I get it. And then I'm like, well, I'm not there yet, so I must not be doing something right. But that's where patience comes in, where you understand that. I think that it could be beneficial for ENJs if we can look at our introverted intuition for what it is and realize, oh, this is almost like this little antenna that's telling me what's coming. And if we just trust that it's coming, or trust that that is a sense that we have about where we're going, and we don't judge where we are based on where we want to be, we know that if we have an introverted intuition, gut feeling about where we're going, then we're going there, and that's it. I think that we'd be a lot happier if we stopped judging ourselves based on where we are right now. Because I think ENTJs will be like, well, if you aren't, oh, you want to start a business? We'll start one. Oh, you haven't started? Well, I guess, like, and I don't really even know how to describe it, but ENFJs and ENTJs are similar in the sense of like, don't complain unless you have done something about it, or unless you have tried to put something out into the external world. And we are incredibly harsh on ourselves. Well, for me, I want to be a life coach, okay? That's what I want to do. But I can't help, my extroverted sensing is like, well, you're not one now, so. My NI is like, well, I want to be one. But SE is like, well, you're not one now. And I imagine that an ENTJ would feel similarly, like if, to use a stereotypical business example, they want to make $1 million. They'll be like, well, I'm not that now, so I must be doing something wrong. But I think that we need to be more patient, because time does matter. And I think it's our introverted sensing blind spot that makes us forget that experience and time does sort of have something going for it. And you know, I want to tell you, I'm going to end with this. Something a friend told me is, I was like, but isn't time an illusion? Like, can't you just like, I was like, can't you just like up level like to where you want to go instantly? And you know what? Time is an illusion, but seasons and patterns and experience is not an illusion. Sometimes you need to go through a cycle, and it's up to you how fast that cycle's going to go. And ENJs have a tendency of just like learning everything they need to know like really rapidly, switching their mindset very rapidly, but you still are going to have to go through the process of understanding. So anyway, those are my thoughts on ENJs and impatience. If you like this video, please subscribe. And if you're curious about personality typology for self-growth, please join my Facebook group that's linked below. Thank you.